Usyk has announced he wants to fight you, Deontay Wilder, the bronze bomber, one of the greatest of this generation in the heavyweight division. Do you want to fight Usyk? Is that the fight that's in negotiation?
Man, when he said that, you know, in my mind, I already said I accept, but I haven't publicly said it. So I'm gonna look right here in this camera and say, Usyk, I appreciate the opportunity, and I accept.
Frank Warren has stirred the boxing world with a bold declaration about the potential showdown between Alexander Usyk and Deontay Wilder, stating he would be genuinely shocked if the Ukrainian champion failed to emerge victorious.
I would expect Usyk to win the fight. I'd be very surprised if he didn't win the fight. But, you know, one thing about Deontay can do.
The matchup represents a fascinating collision between boxing's current pound-for-pound king and a fading but still dangerous puncher whose right hand remains one of the sport's most feared weapons. Warren's prediction carries particular weight given his intimate knowledge of both the heavyweight landscape and Usyk's capabilities, having promoted fighters who have fallen victim to the Ukrainian maestro's sublime skills. Warren's professional relationship with the heavyweight division runs deep, particularly through his promotion of Tyson Fury and Daniel Dubois, both of whom have tasted defeat at the hands of Usyk. The Ukrainians' dominance over these British heavyweights has left an indelible mark on Warren's assessment of the current landscape. Despite his financial interests lying with fighters who have lost to Usyk, the promoter cannot help but acknowledge the Ukrainians' supremacy and technical brilliance inside the squared circle. The promotional kingpin addressed the age factor surrounding both combatants, noting that Wilder has reached the significant milestone of becoming a 40-year-old athlete, while acknowledging that the American maintains excellent physical conditioning. Warren expressed doubts about whether the former WBC title holder retains the same explosive qualities that once made him the most feared knockout artist in the heavyweight division.
He can whack.
Would you like to see that fight, Usyk versus Wilder?
Deontay's what, 40 years of age
40 now.
Is he the same fighter? I don't think he's the same fighter, but then again, is Usyk the same fighter? Because as much as he beat Tyson, those fights took something out of him.
Yeah.
The second fight, there was a couple of things in there, which he still shows what he is, a fighting man, a fighting heart, and he certainly showed against Daniel Dubois on top of his game. He's still the man to beat, so we will see. But if he's going to make that fight and it's going to be Deontay in the other corner, let him get it on.
Eddie Hearn entered the conversation with insights gleaned from direct communication with Usyk regarding his motivation for pursuing the Wilder matchup. The Matchroom boss revealed a conversation he had with the Ukrainian champion in Saudi Arabia, where Usyk expressed his desire to face all the defining fighters from his generation. According to Hearn's account, Usyk identified 3 names as the key figures of the modern heavyweight era: Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, and Deontay Wilder. The champion's logic centers on completing his collection of victories over the biggest names that defined the division during his time at the top. Usyk has already recorded double victories over both Joshua and Fury, establishing his clear superiority over those British rivals. While Hearn acknowledged that Daniel Dubois deserves honorable recognition for his accomplishments, the primary focus remains on adding Wilder to the resume as the final piece of the generational puzzle.
Thoughts on potentially Usyk fighting Wilder? Wilder's a lucky boy if he gets that, isn't he?
Yeah, I don't know, like Usyk, do you know, I was with Usyk in Saudi and I said to him, Deontay Wilder, yeah? And he was like, yes. I said, that's interesting. And he made a point. He said, I want to fight all the people from my sort of generation. He said, and the 3 people who were the key fighters of my era, and I know there's some youngsters coming through, but, you know, is AJ, Fury, and Wilder. These are the 2 biggest names. And you have to give an honourable mention to Daniel Dubois, by the way, because, you know, but he's beat him twice, right? So he's beaten Fury twice, he's beaten AJ twice, he's beaten Dubois twice. And I think he's thinking, I think Wilder on my resume would be nice. Wilder's a big draw, you know, he's still, but for me, he's well past his best. And I don't see it as an overly competitive fight. But as always, in this crazy business we work in, if someone's ready to pay for it, it will happen. And you know, it might be one of those fights where at the moment when people are talking about it, me included, might go, But then when you see it on the poster, you go, wow, you know, what if? But, you know, for me, Usyk's a phenomenon. You know, I mean, I saw him in Saudi, looks fantastic. He's a specimen. And you know, mentally, he's so strong, you know. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what's next for Usyk. What did he say? He's got 2 or 3 fights left? Great. More good news for boxing.
Lennox Lewis, Boxing's last undisputed heavyweight champion before Usyk achieved the feat, weighed in with his assessment of how the potential matchup would unfold. The British legend, who unified the division by defeating Evander Holyfield back in their rematch during the late 90s, sees the fight as heavily favoring the Ukrainian. Lewis characterized it as an easy assignment for Usyk, predicting a dominant performance from the current champion. The former title holder acknowledged the public interest surrounding the potential clash, recognizing that fans want to witness this particular matchup despite the competitive concerns. Lewis expressed his belief that Usyk would win convincingly, framing it as a battle between the division's most complete modern practitioner against a deteriorating but still dangerous power puncher. The contrast represents skill and control versus raw chaos and explosive potential.
I think Usyk is way too great to lose that fight. I think it's going to be an easy fight for Usyk. I think both of them fighting, you know, everybody wants to see that fight. I think Usyk has it hands down.
Tyson Fury offered his characteristically blunt assessment of the situation, suggesting that Usyk's pursuit of Wilder stems purely from commercial considerations. The Gypsy King argued that fighters like Ajit Kabayel, who holds the WBC interim championship, deserve opportunities ahead of Wilder based on rankings and accomplishments. According to Fury's analysis, Usyk has experienced the substantial paydays that come with fighting marquee names like himself, and has no interest in returning to smaller purses against lesser-known contenders. The substantial financial rewards from those high-profile encounters have fundamentally altered the champion's perspective on acceptable opponents. Fury suggested that fights against ranked contenders like Kabayel or Lawrence Okolie make no commercial sense for someone who has commanded top-tier compensation.
But if I could, but I can't. I don't see that fight ever happening with Usyk and Kabayel. It doesn't make any commercial sense. It's like saying to me, do you want to go and fight the man downstairs for 50 quid? Or do you want to fight Anthony Joshua for 20 million? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. And boxing's a business, don't forget. And we're all here to get paid and get laid and get out of here. Yeah. And that's what it's about. Winning a world title's fantastic, and you got to win world titles to get paid. But at that sort of level where Usyk is now, you want the biggest fights possible for the largest amounts of money. You want to get that bag and get out of there. You don't want to fight the toughest fights possible for no money, do you? Agged's a tough fight for anybody. And at the minute, it doesn't make any commercial sense for Usyk to fight Agid or any of them people in WBC top 10, because none of them are massive names yet.
Zab Judah provided an alternative perspective that runs counter to the prevailing narrative of an inevitable Usyk victory. The former undisputed welterweight champion suggested the fight could prove more competitive than most experts anticipate, provided Wilder approaches his preparation correctly. Judah emphasized the importance of comprehensive training, specifically mentioning the need for Wilder to focus on all aspects of conditioning, including legwork. The two-division world champion maintained faith in Wilder's remaining capabilities, asserting that the American retains something special that could make the fight interesting. Judah referenced the old boxing axiom that punching power represents the last attribute to abandon a fighter as they age. As long as Wilder possesses that devastating right hand, he maintains a legitimate path to victory, regardless of other physical or technical deficiencies.
Wilder better go get that. Wilder better go get that. Wilder better go get that.
Call them out, Sue.
He gotta.
That's another opportunity.
But for real, Deontay gotta train. He gotta train for that, my nigga. Train for that. And don't skip leg day. No skipping leg day. Gotta hit leg day, all that, everything. Cause if he, I believe this, man. If Deontay Wilder go in there and get right, he can make that fight a more competitive, interesting fight than a lot of people expected. Trust me. Wilder still got something in there. He still could crack. See, remember, as long as you got that fucking right hand, that's the last thing to go. The last thing to go.
John Fury delivered perhaps the most damning assessment of Wilder's current condition, expressing serious concerns about the American's well-being should he accept the fight. The patriarch of the Fury boxing dynasty, who cornered his son Tyson for multiple fights against both Usyk and Wilder, painted a grim picture of the former champion's physical state. John described Wilder as having no foundation beneath him, characterizing him as completely deteriorated from his prime form. The elder Fury questioned Usyk's motivation for pursuing such a matchup, calling it inappropriate for the world's top heavyweight to target someone in Wilder's diminished condition. He suggested numerous other fighters merit opportunities ahead of the fated American, potential serious injury, or worse, should Wilder continue competing at the elite level, describing the situation as terrible and potentially dangerous.
Well, you know, he's not the same man, is he? He's not got a leg under him, God love him. You know, he's shot one, he's shot to pieces. What does a man like Usyk want to do that for? It's a liberty. It's a liberty. You know, just... You're the number one heavyweight in the world. There's plenty of other people deserve and have a chance to fight than Deontay Wilder. Leave Wilder out of it. Somebody in a minute's going to cause Deontay Wilder some serious injury. And going back to the AJ car crash, this can be just as dangerous and just as bad for Deontay Wilder. But it's camouflage better, isn't it? Just as dangerous. Somebody could kill Wilder. You know, 'cause it's terrible.
Tony Bellew, who shares history with Usyk from their own encounter, heard measured analysis acknowledging both sides of the competitive equation. The former cruiserweight champion admitted his belief that Wilder appears gun-shy and possibly finished as an elite competitor. However, Bellew refused to completely write off the American's chances given the devastating power he still possesses. Bellew reinforced the notion that Wilder remains the single biggest puncher in the entire sport of boxing, a distinction that carries weight regardless of other declining attributes. Even accounting for hesitation or diminished skills, that one punch carries more destructive force than any other fighter can generate. This reality creates inherent risk in the matchup, despite the apparent mismatch in overall ability. Bellew characterized it as a high-risk proposition with minimal reward for Usyk.
Usyk said he wants to fight Wilder. Any interest?
Ooh, that's an interesting
Usyk Wilder. Is Wilder about fucked though? He's about finished? Because he's looked shady, hasn't he, against Zhang?
Listen, I do think he's gun shy. I think he might be shot.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. There's no point in saying he's not.
Wilder.
But the last thing you're ever going to lose is that punch. But I do think he's gun shy. I do think he's wary of throwing.
Yeah.
And I think...
Do you think it could be interesting, Wilder landing a shot on Usyk?
Yeah.
Do you think?
Because you listen, no matter what, Deontay Wilder is still the single biggest puncher in boxing. Yeah. Even if he's a bit gun shy, even if he's a bit shot, with one shot, he's got more power than anyone else in the world.
Yeah.
And I genuinely believe that. So
and that
that's
could be
a risky one.
dangerous for
And listen, let's be honest, risk against reward, he's getting no reward literally for that.
Roy Jones Jr. attempted to contextualize Usyk's motivation through both strategic and legacy considerations. The legendary multi-weight champion suggested the Ukrainian recognizes Wilder's declining state while simultaneously viewing him as a prominent name worth adding to the resume. Jones identified Usyk's apparent desire to make an impact on the American boxing market. The former champion drew historical parallels regarding the prominence of certain demographics in boxing's past, noting how many great fighters from previous generations shared specific backgrounds, before suggesting Usyk wants to position himself as someone who fought every available top name. The pursuit of comprehensive legacy enhancement drives many of these matchmaking decisions at the championship level.
If Wilder can hit you, Wilder can put you out.
Talking of Usyk, he wants Deontay Wilder. Why do you think he wants Deontay?
Well, he knows Deontay is a great puncher, but he knows Deontay is starting to fall off a little bit. He's fallen a lot from where he was. He trains with Russ Amber a lot. You know, Russ used to be with Deontay, and Russ and Deontay had a few issues too, so I'm sure he wants to go pound Deontay out for that.
He's beat Fury twice, he's beat Anthony Joshua twice, Daniel Dubois twice. He wants to be that guy of the modern generation. Whether people think he's finished or not finished, the bottom line is he's still a prominent figure in the heavyweight division.
He's still the brown bomber, and you need that brown bomber. It's like I tell people, when you think about the past in boxing, the past is built basically on mostly black fighters. Most of the great fighters were black. How many great black fighters did Floyd Mayweather fight in their prime? None. But he wanted to be a guy that fought everybody that he could.
Joseph Parker, who owns a victory over Wilder and nearly earned his own shot at Usyk before losing to Fabio Wardley, the New Zealand heavyweight explained that Usyk appears focused on facing the biggest names from the current era rather than emerging contenders. Parker suggested this explains why Usyk chose to vacate his WBO title rather than face the newly crowned Wardley. According to Parker's analysis, Wardley represents the new generation of heavyweights rather than an established name from Usyk's competitive period. The champion seemingly wants to complete his collection of victories over the fighters who dominated during his own rise to prominence. Parker acknowledged that despite Wilder's struggles, his punching power ensures he always possesses a fighter's chance against any opponent.
Usyk, he mentioned your name quite a bit. He wanted to fight you. He was adamant that you was going to win the fight, and rather than fighting Fabio Wardley, he's now name-dropped Deontay Wilder. Do you the assumption is he wants to fight the greatest fighters of this era, that people will look back in 100 years' time, and obviously your name's up there because you fought everyone. Do you think that's the reason why he's now wanting to fight Wilder, not Fabio?
Yeah, I mean, you probably know best, right? With where Usyk's coming from. He wants to fight the names of this era, and I guess if you look at Fabio Wardley, he's a new name or a name coming through, or he's a champion of the world now, but he's sort of one of the new part of the new crop. And I think with what Usyk is saying, he wants to fight everyone who was dominating the heavyweight division in his time.
What do you make of that fight? Do you give Wilder any kind of chance? Because obviously people will be writing him off.
Wilder will always have a chance. He's always got that big right hand that he possesses. It's all up to Usyk, really. Does he want to stand there and get caught with the right hand, or is he going to come out and showcase his boxing skills, his movement, his angles, and everything else that he's been showing in his fights?
The matchup's appeal rests on contrasting elements and unanswered questions. Usyk's manager, Aegis Klimas, has indicated the fight would be part of a multi-fight arrangement with an American promoter, potentially taking place in either April or May. The locations mentioned include Las Vegas and Los Angeles, major boxing markets that could provide the stage for this intergenerational clash. Usyk's recent performance against Dubois, where he secured a fifth-round stoppage to claim undisputed status for the second time, demonstrated his continued offensive capabilities at heavyweight. The Ukrainian has now vacated the WBO belt, maintaining only the WBC, WBA, and IBF titles that would be at stake against Wilder. His resume already includes double victories over the three biggest British names in the division, establishing clear dominance over that era of heavyweights. The champion's stated plans involve competing 2 or 3 more times before retirement, making each remaining fight significant for legacy purposes. At 38 years old, Usyk operates under his own timeline constraints even as he remains at the peak of his abilities. The Wilder fight would represent his first encounter with a non-British opponent since his cruiserweight days, adding geographic diversity to his heavyweight accomplishments.
The rankings, why you are interested in him?
No, now it's only plan. For me, numbers 2, numbers 3, numbers 5 doesn't matter, because sometimes numbers 21 win numbers 1. This guy world champion, not 1 year, 3, 5. This is guy bronze medalist for Olympic Games Beijing. This is champion.
Wilder's journey since losing his WBC title to Fury in early 2020 has been marked by struggle and decline. The 40-year-old former champion has managed only 1 victory in his last 6 professional contests, raising legitimate questions about his remaining competitive viability. The losses to Parker and Zhang proved particularly concerning, with the latter resulting in a devastating stoppage that highlighted his vulnerabilities. The WBC has granted Usyk permission to make a voluntary defense, opening the pathway for the Wilder matchup to proceed without mandatory obligations interfering. This flexibility allows the champion to pursue the fight he wants, rather than being forced into less appealing assignments. The decision sparked criticism from those who believe deserving contenders like Cabile should receive priority based on rankings rather than name value.
There's another fight that's making a lot of noise right now, Deontay Wilder versus Alexander Usyk. Alexander Usyk and Deontay Wilder. I mean, Usyk's a guy we've labelled as a British Slayer. He's beating everybody. Deontay Wilder, what type of a chance do you give him if he was to fight Alexander Usyk?
Nah. He's not a good enough boxer.
But he still holds a lot of knockout power.
I don't think he'd be able to get that power off with Usyk, in my opinion. I don't think so.
The consensus among boxing experts and former champions leans heavily toward Usyk emerging victorious should the fight materialize. The combination of technical superiority, recent activity, and demonstrated ability to handle powerful opponents suggests the Ukrainian would control the fight from start to finish. However, the caveat remains constant across all predictions. Wilder's punching power creates perpetual danger that cannot be completely dismissed, regardless of other factors favoring Usyk.